As a kid, my favorite game to play at my grandma's house was to hang on her laundry lines. Her laundry lines were not the kind that are outside the balcony, but they are on the inside and up. So I used to put my hands up, hang on these lines, and think of myself as a bird, as a plane, as something that's free and flying. Here, a lot of questions started formulating in my head about why do we do laundry, what is laundry, why does it have systems, and most of all, why does it always smell so good? These questions traveled with me as I was growing up, and they transferred in a way into my photography. I bought my first camera as I was 16, and I started taking pictures of laundry inside my own apartment. There, I learned from my own mother and grandmother that there are systems to do laundry. You can either color code it, that goes from different gradients of colors, or you can put it based on size, big to small or small to big. And never ever wash colored laundry with white ones. So I took my observation a bit outside the apartment. I started observing our neighbors. In Aleppo, the buildings are this close to each other, so you could literally see whatever is going on in your neighbor's apartment, how they fight, when do they eat, when do they study, and how basically they live their life. And my neighbors were very messy in all of that, and that was very apparent through their laundry. So here, laundry started to become a means for me to understand people around me through their laundry. I moved from Aleppo to Yerevan a couple of years after that. And there I was feeling unsafe in a new city. I was unfamiliar with my environment. So I decided to familiarize myself with it. I took my camera, I went out in the street, and I started taking photos. And there was a lot of laundry everywhere. I started paying closer attention to Yerevan's laundry. And as I was familiarizing myself with the other issues as well, there was always the discussion about gender and taboos and sexism in Yerevan, but that was not present in their laundry because as I was walking in one of the oldest neighborhoods of Yerevan, Kont, I saw bras hanging, thongs, and other kinds of underwear. My grandma always told me that you never put your underwear outside for everybody to see, but in Yerevan, that was a whole other story. So here the contradiction between laundry and taboos became one. A couple of years after that, I took my observation one cycle further. It went global. I visited Italy and specifically the city of Naples. Naples is very famous for its narrow streets, just like my hometown Aleppo. As I was walking in the streets, there was a lot of laundry everywhere, and there were small shops in the street, and laundry powder smell was coming out of them. My combined senses of smell and vision were combined, and they created this reconstructed memory of a hometown that I haven't visited for over 5 years. And I was completely in another location. And that was only because Italy and Syria had a lot in common through religious pilgrimages that took place over centuries. And these brought with them a lot of food cultures, how people do laundry. So it was very obvious that I would feel that in there. I felt the same in southern France a couple of years later, and you could guess why and what was the reason that I felt that. But in France, the reason behind it was different. It was post-colonialism because Syria was under the French mandate for over 20 years in the 20th century. So that didn't only leave a lot of social, cultural, educational, and political effect on the country, but it also affected the small things like food and laundry and how people live their lives. From post-colonialism, I moved back into war because in 2016, there was a 4-day war in Nagorno-Karabakh. I've never heard of the place before, so a year later, when it became relatively safer, I decided to pay a visit. Our tour guide was showing us what happened there during the war, how buildings were damaged, and there was this one specific building which was hurt the most. It was right in front of the Ghazan-Chesodz Cathedral. I looked at the building. It was so ugly, dirty, full of sorrow, pain. But one thing stood out. There was laundry on one of the balconies, and it was beautifully and perfectly put, just like my grandma says, from small to big, and it was all white. And that laundry made me fade away from everything the guide was saying, and it was screaming one word only: survival. A few years after that, I visited Lebanon. Lebanon for me is a place where I was always festive, happy, it has amazing food, but I've never been to this part of Lebanon before. It was the Sabra and Shatila Palestinian refugee camp. This refugee camp I've heard a lot of before, specifically through a lot of poets and writers. It immediately took me to my favorite poem by my favorite poet, Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish, and he recites, "My homeland is a clothesline, full of handkerchiefs of blood shed every minute." At that moment, I stood at one of the courtyards in the camp, and it was full of laundry, every color of laundry you could imagine. And then again, I thought to myself that these people wrote about this laundry before, but to me, it was representing the resilience of Palestinian people after years of war, deportation, and relocation into many cities and refugee camps. Eventually, I came to this realization that laundry is a means of communications, whether it's through neighbors or through its lines. I saw people talking to each other over laundry, neighbors sharing coffee from balconies as they put their laundry to dry. I saw neighbors exchanging small pieces of chocolate as they have a conversation. So laundry, for a lot of women specifically, was turned into this social event. I reconnected with my ancestors through laundry because I was at a scouts camp in Switzerland, where it's a first world country and you could never imagine yourself doing this. But guess what? I only had a bar of soap and a river, and I had to do laundry the old-fashioned way, using my hands, just like my ancestors did. And there only, I was very, very thankful that we have washing machines today. Laundry lines represent a line of communications, but they also can help you dry anything that passes your mind. It can be a dried fruit, it can be a bag that you wash to reuse to save the environment, or during the times of crisis when COVID hit, a lot of people were washing their masks and they were putting them out on laundry lines. In life, we usually look for the big things to make sense and to understand our surrounding and what's happening around us. But sometimes small things like laundry can show us a lot about who people are, who this specific culture is, and how do they do certain things. To me and to everyone, laundry is like music. It's a universal language. It has its own rules and adjustments from one culture to another, from one family to another, but at the end of the day, we all have to do it to survive. Thank you.